Obviously, I want to remain anonymous as you tell this story, so I'll provide you with enough context so you can understand. This is a pretty long story, so hold on to your butts, because this one is a pretty wild ride. First off, let me start you off with a bit of context. I am female and I live in the Pacific Northwest. At the time this happened, I was 20 years old. It all started at an anime convention. It's here I was cosplaying as Hatsune Miku. The first day there was actually pretty fun, and I met a lot of cool people. Now we fast forward to the second day. This day consisted of attending various workshops and performing in live karaoke sessions. During the live karaoke sessions, I met this guy who was cosplaying as Edward Elric from the Full Metal Alchemist series. He seemed pretty cool, and we started talking for quite a bit. After the live karaoke, we ended up getting dinner together at a nearby Denny's. It's here we talked about our favorite hobbies, what we did, as well as what animes we enjoyed watching, etc. Now, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't love at first sight. And wouldn't you know it, before the night ended, we ended up exchanging phone numbers, and then we went our separate ways. The next day was day 3 of the convention, but instead of attending, Alan and I instead decided to go on a date and check out the surrounding city. Again, we ended up getting along quite famously, and before sunset, Alan had a question. I'm sure you know where this one's going. We have so many things in common. I know this is all of a sudden, but I'll regret it if I don't say anything. Would you like to be boyfriend and girlfriend? I was taken aback, and at first I was going to say no. After all, I'd only just met him, but me being dumb and naive says yes and agrees. This would turn out to be one of the worst decisions of my life. Fast forward a couple of days, and Alan had returned home to Texas. We're now talking almost exclusively, and I found myself in my room just texting him and playing video games together on PlayStation. This would continue into the upcoming months. However, little things in Alan's behavior started to hint that something was very wrong. On top of the usual I love you messages, he would go on about how he wouldn't know what he would do if I ever had broken up with him. I would always reassure him that would never happen, but that didn't stop him from saying things that would regard hurting himself. Really creepy. But to combat this, I visited him, to which he ended up doing the same. This back and forth continues for almost 2 years, until one point I found out he was seeing someone else. I won't get into those details on how I found out, since that's a whole nother story on its own. But the point was, I was beyond devastated. I invested all this time with someone who was going through such a hard point in life, only for them to do this to me. I ended up breaking up with Alan a few days after I found out. Alan then goes on to say how it was a mistake and that he was sorry, but I wasn't having it. That should have been how the story ended. Finally, an end. However, this was just the second act of my living a nightmare. About a week passes since the breakup and the phone calls ended up beginning. I'm not exaggerating when I got off of work one late night and I had easily over 50 missed calls and at least 30 text messages from Alan. The messages started off fairly innocent, then went into more graphic details. Some of these messages described how he wanted me to meet my demise. I hope one day they find you at the bottom of a lake, because I'm sure no one is going to miss you. The messages were a bit more graphic than that, but I don't want you to get in trouble for retelling this next part. If any listeners want to hear the exact things he said, I can respond to them in the comments section once the creepy fox uploads this video. Anyway, I ended up blocking him right after that, but I know what you're wondering. Did he leave any voicemails? He sure did. There were 3 before I blocked him. The first 2 were just him crying, but the third one sent chills. You don't love me anymore? I don't get it. How long do I have to cry before you'll take me back? That's it. I'm done with you. You'll regret everything you've put me through. I'll personally make sure of it. There were a few little things after that, such as him creating new accounts just to leave comments on my photos and posts. Thankfully, I was able to fix this by setting all my accounts to private. Then one day, things got too real. On this one weekend, my parents had been out of town and I was in charge of looking after the house. I was returning home from a friend's house and that's when I noticed their front door was wide open. Now, I'm the kind of person that gets really paranoid when it comes to open doors and windows. Before leaving the house, I always double check and even triple check to make sure everything was closed. That's why I found this activity strange. So instead of entering the house, I get on the phone with police and tell them that there might be a possible burglar. So I now wait in the car until police officers arrive 10 minutes later, 2 of them to be exact. They do a complete search of my home, and what they found in my room was creepy. Alan was hiding underneath my bed with one of my kitchen knives. In summary, officers ended up arresting him and taking him away without any further complications. He later confessed that he broke in and he was waiting for me to go to bed. Once I was in dreamland, he would crawl out from under the bed and, well, with the knife in his hand, he'd try to attack me. After this, we went to court and not only did I get a restraining order on him, but he also got time behind bars. It's been about a year since he was arrested, and I've now moved out on my own and live 2 hours away with my new partner. Though I've tried to move on from him, I can't help but sometimes get paranoid anytime I'm home by myself. Back during the summer of 2013, both myself and my girlfriend attended an anime convention in Southern California. We are both 25, by the way, and we are originally from Las Vegas, Nevada. Anyway, we'd planned this mini vacation for well over a year. And instead of staying at a fancy hotel that would have cost us hundreds of dollars, my girlfriend and I ended up crashing at my girlfriend's aunt's house. They are about a 15-minute drive from the convention center, which made things way more affordable. As this was the first time I'd ever been in Southern California, I was actually really excited for Disneyland, where we spent all of our day at first before the convention. Fast forward to the main event, and both myself and my girlfriend are dressed up in our cosplay. My girlfriend was Hatsune Miku, and I was Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Quite a strange combination, but hey, we each loved our own series. Anyway, apart from taking pictures with fellow cosplayers and going to panels of our favorite voice actors, something happened at the convention center that was going to lead to one of the creepiest and, might I say, most bizarre incidents of our lives thus far. It started when both myself and my girlfriend went to go buy some lunch at one of the nearby restaurants. There were a bunch of other anime convention attendees enjoying their meals, and a couple of them even asked to take photos together with us. Even the waitress asked for a photo. She was really cool and she was a huge fan of my girlfriend's cosplay. Toward the end, when we were waiting to pay for our bill, a heavy-set middle-aged man approaches our table and he asks to take a photo with my girlfriend. Bear in mind, he's also got a lanyard from the convention center, meaning that he was also attending the convention. Anyway, my girlfriend was more than happy to take a picture with him as I grabbed the man's phone and take a couple of photos. That's all it should have been, until he started to make conversation. Here were just some of the things he mentioned. "So, are you two from around here?" We told him no, to which he says, "If you got nowhere to stay, I'd be more than happy to let you two stay over at my place. I got a bunch of anime series we can watch together." Basic conversation, until he says something that raises serious alarms. "You wouldn't happen to be her boyfriend, would you? It'd be a shame. I'd hate to kill just to have somebody as beautiful as her be by my side." He then lets out an awkward laugh as my girlfriend looks at me uncomfortably. Admittedly, I was starting to sense something was seriously off with this guy too, and it wasn't helping that the waitress was taking her sweet time. I tell the man that shouldn't be something to joke about as I grab my girlfriend's hand and we walk toward the front to pay there. Once we start to walk away from the building, the man follows us and says he was joking, but then contradicts himself when he mentions that he would be a better boyfriend than I ever was. I can't tell you how hard I tried not to walk back and punch him right in the face. I could have very well have done so, trust me, but I didn't want to cause a scene. After all, we were here to have fun, not to start a fight. A couple of hours go by and there's no sign of the creep from earlier. I start thinking that maybe he was just some random dude trying to see if he could get lucky, but failing miserably. That's until he returns. You see, while I was in the restroom, my girlfriend was sitting at a bench looking at her phone. She tells me that she heard somebody call out to her, and there he was, with the biggest and creepiest smile. She started to get nervous when he says something like, "So, did you two break up already? Want to go back to my house?" She walks over to some cosplayers for comfort while the man continues to try conversing with her. I ended up seeing the part where the man puts his hands on her shoulder. That was enough for me to drop any sort of compassion and basically shove the dude into a nearby post. The man just brushed it off and booked it down the hallway. Talk about creepy. But the worst is yet to come. Trust me. It's now I bring you to later in the evening, and we're back at my girlfriend's aunt's house relaxing, and we're having a late night dinner. We did mention the weird guy from the convention center, but quickly changed the subject as my girlfriend was starting to feel pretty uncomfortable. She actually got up and walked outside to get some fresh air, but that only lasted for about 20 seconds. We were interrupted by her screaming at the top of her lungs as she comes back into the kitchen and starts having a panic attack. Her aunt goes up and hugs her while both myself and her uncle are asking what was wrong. All she did was point toward the window, which we wasted no time heading towards. What we saw ensured just how far some people are willing to go. Remember the creepy man from the convention center? Somehow, some way, without us even noticing, he followed us and he had found out where we were staying. My girlfriend's uncle went into a fit of rage as he basically kicks the screen door off its hinges. He approaches the creepy man. He tried to apologize to my girlfriend's uncle, saying he wanted to say sorry and he wanted to take one last photo together. But my girlfriend's uncle tells him that he was going to call the cops instead. Not that he needed to do so since I was already doing just that. Now here's the part that gave us the chills. I couldn't see this personally, but my girlfriend's uncle says that he could clearly see a knife in the man's pocket. That made the whole situation that much more scarier. Basically, what happened next is the man left and police arrived about 15 minutes later. We gave them our statement, including a description of the man and his vehicle, but sadly we couldn't get a good picture of the license plate as it was already dark and late, and he was parked all the way across the street. As far as we know, the man has never showed up to that house again, and he has never been caught, and I'd like to hope he's since changed his ways, because I'd rather no one ever have to go through something like this, because it's very horrifying. I was staying at a Best Western back in the fall of 2015. It's nearby that I would be attending an anime convention. The event was something I was really looking forward to, and it was exciting to see the people who dressed up and cosplayed when I entered the hotel lobby. As for myself, I was cosplaying as Hatsune from Sword Art Online. Anyway, I did have some people come up to me to get photos, and I even got photos with some of my favorite characters. The following day, I spent the majority of my time at the convention center and finally left around 7 p.m. The one thing was obvious. I hadn't drank enough water, and I was feeling dehydrated and dizzy. Therefore, I ended up walking over to a 7-Eleven to pick up some Gatorade. I'm welcomed by the cashier who could visibly see I wasn't feeling too well. He offered to call for help, but I told him that I was fine. He kept insisting, but me being the naive person I am, I said no. Bless his heart for being so concerned though. Now, I start the 10-minute walk back to the hotel, and that's when a man walks up to me. He looked pretty normal. I would describe him as in his late 20s with sunglasses. "Hey, you don't look too good. Do you need some help?" I think I'll be okay. Thanks for the offer. I then fell to my knees and felt as if I was about to pass out. No, come on, let me help you. He moves me to the side of the curb and passes me the Gatorade. So far, things seem pretty innocent. After all, here is this complete stranger I've never met sitting with me, ensuring I can actually make it back to the hotel. One thing I did notice was he was texting someone on his phone. He kept looking around as if he was looking for someone. Anyway, after a few minutes, I'm feeling a bit better. He now offers to walk me to the hotel, to which I said, sure, but that was a big mistake. I should have just left right there and then on my own. Mind you, I was afraid I was going to fall over again. So now he starts walking me with my arm around his shoulder, and I notice he's taking me now into an alleyway. Well, hold on a minute. I don't remember taking an alleyway to get to the 7-Eleven. I think we're going the wrong way. You said you were staying at the Best Western, correct? This is simply a shortcut. I want to get you there faster. Being naive, I listened and we continued for a couple of more minutes. But then, the absolute nerve. He pushes me next to a dumpster, and now another man walks out from the shadows. I hear him say, "Wow, you actually brought one of those girls with you?" I couldn't believe it. This was a setup. He only pretended to care so that I could follow him into this alleyway. I don't know what happened, but it's as if seeing and hearing that suddenly reawakened the energy in me, because all of a sudden, I was full of adrenaline. As they start to corner me, I manage to dodge one of their lunges at the last second, and I book it back the way we walked from. Thankfully, I am able to catch the attention of a family and tell them about what was happening. When we turn back, we can see the two guys just stare at us before they walk back into the dark and disappear. Now, regardless of what happened, this family was nice enough to take me back to the hotel, where some of the friends I met at the convention center were sitting around and talking. Visibly shaking and crying, I told them about what happened, and they are able to comfort me by buying me dinner and inviting me to watch movies with them later that evening. I did get some rest and felt better the next day, but I stayed in the hotel until it was time to check out, and that was pretty much it. I never did see those creeps ever again. It was a wonderful night at the Japan Expo Carnival, and my friend and I had been there since opening. After a long day of fun and festivities, it was time to go home. However, during our time there, we did have this weird and creepy encounter with this one man. In summary, we had noticed he had been following us around for random points. Something you should know about my friend and I is that we really enjoy cosplaying. Therefore, I was dressed up as Namine, and my friend was dressed up as Kairi from the popular video game series, Kingdom Hearts. Of course, we had people complimenting our skills of costume making and taking pictures with us, but this one man wouldn't leave us alone, the one I mentioned. We did say hello to him in the morning and we took pictures with him, but he seemed to have grown obsessed. He appeared to be in his mid-40s, slightly overweight with glasses, stubble, and black hair in a ponytail. After a couple of hours since we last saw him, we figured perhaps he had left and that was the end of it. Well, thankfully for us, my friend and I are neighbors, and we're just about a 15-minute walk from home, so it wasn't too much of a bother. We stopped to take some photos with some fellow cosplayers on our way out, and so far everything was okay. However, as we crossed the street to get some french fries and a shake from In-N-Out, we saw a familiar face. It's the same guy from the carnival. My friend and I did our best to try and avoid him as he had his back turned to us. I guess we both really wanted some food, so we took the chance. On a side note, a big thank you to Allison, the cashier, who gave us a discount. She was a big fan of Kingdom Hearts and loved our costumes. Well, we stood there waiting for our order when all of a sudden we hear someone call out to us. "Hey there, Namine. Hey there, Kairi." We both shivered. It was the man from the carnival. Of course, pretending like nothing had happened, we greet him and act friendly. He seems to act all innocent now that there were all these people here, and again he begins to compliment us. The thing is, he starts wanting to know more personal things. Age, what school we went to, our size of clothing, and even our phone numbers. You could tell the other people around us were looking at him funny, and even one of the dads intervened. "Hey buddy, don't you think you're a little too old to be saying these things to them? These girls are in high school, relax." "Well, thank you, kind sir, but in actuality my friend and I were both 19, and we were in college." Still, this was enough to get him to back off, and we soon leave. However, once again, it's not over yet. About 5 minutes away from our house, Emily and I both noticed a car slowly driving down this street. Once they got closer, we saw a flash of a camera. That was then followed by seeing our carnival weirdo driving slowly next to us. He ended up saying something, but I don't think we really paid attention because we soon start running down this street. We decide to go take a shortcut that goes behind one of the neighbors' alleys. We begin to notice that he was following us there, but we lose him as we make our way into a neighbor's backyard. Once we no longer could see him, we make our way to my house, where we immediately call the police. Thankfully, we never did see him again after that, but then again, he could still be out there, and I wonder whether or not the cops have done anything, because they never called us back. I know this might not be the most scariest encounter in the world, but regardless if you were in our shoes, you might think otherwise. A few Halloweens ago, I had a pretty scary experience that has reminded me on just how important it is to be aware of your surroundings. If you feel something is wrong, don't be afraid to speak up. It's better to be a possible annoyance than to end up on the week's front newspaper page saying your carcass was found in the middle of nowhere. Okay, maybe this wasn't as extreme, but you get the idea. So there I was, Halloween day. I still had a couple of university classes to attend to, theater and math. Thus, once I was dressed up, I head to campus. By the way, I was cosplaying as Harley Quinn that year, one of my favorite characters, and as such I got a lot of classmates who enjoyed my cosplay. I remember taking pictures with some other classmates who were also dressed up for the occasion, and that was really fun. Fast forward to around 5 p.m. and I'm out of my last class. I'm starting to get pretty hungry and I'm contemplating on what I want to get. I decided, why not Panera Bread? It's right next to school. Plus I figured I'd get something for my little brother. He was sick that day and my grandma was looking after him. So I called and asked if my little brother would like a soup and bread as I was already going to be ordering, and she ended up saying yes. Sweet. I now make the short walk over to the shopping center where the Panera Bread is located. This is when things were about to take a turn, further downright creepy. As I walk up to the door, I noticed a homeless man sitting outside the Panera Bread, just staring at me funny, to which I just went ahead and gave him a friendly wave and a smile, and I walked in. Inside Panera Bread were approximately 5 people waiting in front of me. One of them was dressed up as Jack Sparrow, which was neat as it's another character I love. But that's not important. I'm there in line for only maybe 30 seconds when I feel a tap on my shoulder. This was also accompanied by the smell of a mix of alcohol and rotten eggs. I turned around and it's the homeless man that I just mentioned. Here's the thing. He was very awkward in the sense that he didn't really say much. He just said I was really pretty and then started to breathe heavily, looking left and right. I was really giving him the benefit of the doubt, but all the alarms in my head were telling me that something wasn't right and that I should say something. But I didn't. Instead, I continued to wait in line, with this man right behind me the entire time, until I finally reached the cashier. I notice now as the man walks away and steps out of the store as he disappears behind the wall. Well, that was weird, I thought, but I guess it's just one of those random things that happens. I made the order and after a short wait the food was ready. Awesome. With the meal in hand I now had to walk back home, but it's not an issue. I guess I should mention that I live very close to campus, just a short 10-minute walk. I did sometimes drive, but as parking was a pain in the rear end, walking really was my lifesaver since I hated having to deal with the parking stress. If only I brought my car with me that day. You see, as soon as I exit the Panera Bread, I noticed I'm being followed. By whom? The homeless man I mentioned. I'm now starting to get a bit paranoid But as to calm myself, I say, there's plenty of people driving around, so this guy wouldn't actually try anything, right? Well, when I reach the intersection that then leads me into the neighborhoods of where my house is located, the man gets very close to me. He then says something that I would never forget. "Hey, baby, we can do this either the easy way or the hard way." I looked back confused, and what I see poking out through his jacket sent chills down my spine. I see a pocket knife. I can't tell you how scared I got, as in that moment the Walkman sign comes on, which causes me to run across the street like a mad woman. The man follows me, and I'm now heading toward the neighborhood where I'm screaming and shouting, trying to get someone's attention. Luckily, there are trick-or-treaters along with their parents beginning to make their way down the streets, and I managed to wave one of them down. Harley Quinn being chased by a lunatic with a knife. Talk about a plot of a cheap, scary movie. Anyway, I caught a break because when I looked back for a brief moment, the man had stopped chasing me entirely. He was just standing there before he turned around and ended up leaving. You bet once I was in the safety of the neighborhood, I had the family I went up to keep me company as I called for the cops. I didn't hear anything back from them. Whether or not he was caught, not too sure. But the one thing was for certain. The experience taught me a valuable lesson, as I now carry my own knife and pepper spray, just in case. I don't even know how I want to begin writing this out. I guess even after all this time, I've still been in shock. Shock to think that there are people who exist in this world who find some sort of satisfaction preying on people like myself. First and foremost, allow me to begin my submission by giving you a little bit of background context. This first happened around 2013. I'm female, and I was 22 years old. I had been using Instagram for about upwards of a year at that point, so I could post pictures of my cosplaying. It was a pastime I'd first developed in high school after I'd attended my first convention. My trademark was dressing up as female video game characters, my personal favorite being Lara Croft from the Tomb Raider series. Over time, I started to gather a fan base of sorts, about 500 followers, but mostly everyone who followed me were very supportive. Comments about the outfits, as well as the research that went into playing each character. Of course, there were a few creepy comments here and there, but nothing to warrant any serious actions. One day would be the start of something completely and utterly bizarre. I don't remember what exactly I was doing, but I do remember I ended up receiving a message from an account I was unfamiliar with. Thinking perhaps it might have been a new follower saying hello, I opened the message. It simply said something more or less of, "Hello, hope you're having a great day. Love your pictures." Flattered, I responded back thanking them, and a conversation ended up sparking. Before I knew it, I'd gone and followed this random guy. I say guy because when I clicked on his profile, it was some dude who also so happened to cosplay. Nothing really seemed out of the ordinary. He had around 50 followers and a bunch of selfies of him in various costumes. He appeared to be around 25 years of age. Now, since this was some time ago, I don't remember his exact name, so we'll just call him Zach. A couple of months passed since I first followed Zach, and we became pretty fast friends. I recall spending nights just talking about anime and video games with him, and we had even set up a sort of date where we would talk via Skype and watch anime. That day came, but something Zach mentioned began to raise alarms. "I think it would be easier to video chat instead. Don't you agree?" I told him. I had mentioned that to him. He then proceeded to give me a bunch of excuses. First one was, "I would, but I'm using my parents' old laptop. It doesn't have a camera." I then asked him if he had a cell phone. He makes another excuse saying it wasn't a smartphone, but instead a flip phone from the late 2000s. Must have been a pretty good one, since all his selfies were pretty decent camera quality. I desperately wanted to believe him, and I'll admit, though I hadn't seen him via video chat, the pictures were all I needed. He was always very sweet, sending funny and cute animal pictures, and always wishing me a good morning and a good night. By the way, I forgot to mention this part, but right before I'd met Zach, I was going through a pretty tough breakup. My then partner was very toxic toward me, and it all came to a head when he tried coming after me with a knife after he had been out drinking with a couple of his friends. So my self-esteem was at an all-time low, and my anxiety was at an all-time high. More time passes on, and he pops the question of, "Will you be my girlfriend?" I was shocked because though I had more or less fallen for him, I never really considered ever dating someone over the internet. I did find a sort of excitement being able to claim that I met someone online and that we were now official, but of course it was at this point some of my friends were telling me to be cautious of Zach. He was still very distant when it came to us talking via video chat, which raised concerns with my friends. One day everything changed. One of my friends ended up texting me a bunch of pictures of a profile that she found on Instagram. I at first thought it was Zach's profile, but then I looked at the username. Completely different. That wasn't the only difference, however. This guy had around 5,000 followers, and his name was Evan. I was devastated, but still I tried to come up with some sort of reasoning, even though my brain was telling me, the gig is up, honey. I looked further and further into this Evan's profile, and I was able to match every upload to those of Zach's, down to every last detail. However, Zach had failed to upload pictures of what looked to be like Evan's girlfriend. There were various photos of him posing with the same girl, even a couple of them where they were kissing. Again, I was pretty sad, but that soon started to turn into feelings of anger. How was it that I was so stupid? Someone had actually gone out of their way to use a false persona just to lure me in. I'd opened up to Zach, who had become so close in our almost year relationship, and I'd even told him very personal details, including where I was working, as well as what school I went to. However, what really got to me was when I clicked on some of the videos that were absent from Zach's profile. This was when I got the chills. The voice I was talking to sounded nothing like Evan's. You see, Zach's voice was more on the deeper end. He claimed it was because he was in a car accident, which caused his voice to change. An obvious lie, I would soon find out. I messaged Zach that same evening and he ended up spilling the beans. He told me he was too afraid to show his face because of how he looked. Honestly, I could have cared less about that. Sure, the photos were cool, but when it came to personality, that was what really caught my attention. He now proceeded to call me and spent over 20 minutes crying and apologizing. I wasn't having any of it, however. Then things turned downright terrifying. He hung up the call, and then he sent a picture an hour later. It was a photo of a revolver with a couple of bullets next to it. The following text said, "I can't live without you. Please, I don't want to do this. Please give me another chance." I got so freaked out because the last thing I wanted was for him to cause harm to either himself or to others. Pretty much he was guilt-tripping me. I'll be honest, I had no clue what to do. I told him I wouldn't mind talking, but this whole creepy factor had to come to an end. Things then settled as I talked to Zach less and less, and before I knew it, his profile disappeared. One day I tried calling his cell phone out of curiosity, but it had told me the number was no longer in service. Then one day, something happened that I alluded to at the beginning, about this being so bizarre. This occurred in late 2014. I was home babysitting my youngest sister and we were in the backyard playing. All of a sudden, I heard my name being called from the side door, or the one that lets you into the backyard. I didn't recognize the man. He appeared to be in his late 40s. He was almost bald, had acne, glasses, and was quite a bit overweight. "Hi, how can I help you?" I questioned him as I told my little sister to head inside the house. "It's me, Zach." Don't you remember who I am? I wanted to come over in person and see you." Instantly, the memories and pain of the past came back to me, like hitting a wall of bricks all of a sudden. Hi, Zach? This is actually a bad time. Can we talk some other day?" "No, I don't think so. I drove over 13 hours just so I can come see you. I was hoping I might find you. How I wish my dad was home. He would have beat this guy up like an MMA fighter." "Come on, Emily. Let's go inside and play with your toys," I expressed to my sister as I grab her hand and we start making our way to the back door. I couldn't believe what happened next, but it did. He manages to unlock the door and he comes walking over to my sister and I, who at this point had already made it inside our home. "Let me inside. I just want to talk to you." This guy was a freak. He had a knife in his hand and an expression that said, "I'm going to kill you." Emily starts crying and I tell her to head to her room and lock herself in there. All the while a light bulb goes off in my head. Are all the windows and doors locked? I think he caught the expression on my face, because as soon as I leave his sight, I can hear him run to the front of the house. Thank God the front door was locked, as well as the windows. Here was when something happened. I was now on the phone with the police describing the potential intruder, where I could hear an argument occurring. It was my neighbor John. He's an ex-Marine, and he noticed Zach had a knife in his hand. No joke, I watched as Zach starts running toward John, but John, bless his heart, took this guy down. Not only was he able to disarm him, but he put him into a chokehold. All the while, he called to a buddy of his who happened to be inside his house. Finally, police officers arrived and, in short summary, they took him into custody. Ugh, that was a lot for me to go over. Sorry for it being so long. Anyway, it was later relayed to me that he had a bunch of rope, duct tape, and even some syringes in the back of his van. I'm pretty sure those weren't going to be gifted to me. Now, I don't really have much in form of proof to provide, but I can show you the screenshots I took of some of our conversations over text message, as well as Skype. Since I did end up getting a new phone not too long after he was arrested, I wasn't able to back up every single detail. Also, since he got rid of his Instagram, I never did screenshot that stuff. I should have, but I never expected it would straight up disappear. So that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to clear up any loose ends in the comments section. I've already told the creepy fox to let me know when he includes this story. That way I can be active in the comments section. Thanks for listening, and please stay safe. October 31st, 2013, Idaho. Halloween. Yes, it's that awesome time of the year. It's that one holiday where I can dress up as my favorite anime character and not have people look at me funny. Well, there is Anime Expo, but that's only in one location. I'm talking about being able to go trick-or-treating with friends, dressed up all together, and having fun. Yeah, I'm that sort of person. Anyway, here's what I wanted to talk about. After a pretty boring day of college courses, which consisted of history class and geology, I left campus excited and looking forward to the evening. This evening, my best friend Amy was throwing a Halloween party, and she had invited me alongside my other friends. Our plan was to go trick-or-treating at a local park, and then we would head on over to her place for the festivities. As for my costume, or should I say cosplay as I'm a cosplayer, I had chosen to dress up as Sailor Moon. Now, as the evening goes by pretty fast and after hours of games and music, it was approaching midnight. With a project due in a couple of days, I knew I had to get back to my dorm, so that way I could wake up early the next morning and work on it. So now begins the story of why I don't like walking late at night. Amy offered to take me back to the dorm, but I figured since it was only a 20-minute walk, it wouldn't be such a big deal. And besides, there are still many people walking about, so why should I have to worry? Against my better judgment, I now take out my iPod and make the walk back. The problem started to happen when I reached the park, the same one where people were giving out candy and having a party for the community. By this point, the festivities were coming to a close, and the only people left were the ones who were picking up the mess left behind by all the kids. I walked by some people, and one of the dads who I had seen earlier called out to me. He was with his kids, and he wanted to know if they could get a picture with me. I didn't see the problem, so we take some fun little pictures, and he thanks me with some extra candy. Of course, he wanted to know why I was walking on my own, but I just told him I lived right across the street, which was a lie. Now, the fact that Amy offered to take me back, and now this kind dad was wondering how I was getting home, it should have told me that maybe I shouldn't be walking out on my own. But regardless, I continued on. Eventually, I'm crossing the street from the park, and now I'm going down a series of dark neighborhoods. Remember, I had my iPod with me, and I remember I was listening to some Halloween music to set the mood. While I was choosing my next song, I hadn't realized that somebody was walking towards me from the other side of the street. I only now noticed him when he was about 10 feet away. Well, what does he do? He bumps into me and grabs my iPod. He then begins running away from me, heading towards where the park was. I wasn't having this, so I start running after him, telling him to get back here. All the meanwhile, I'm trying to make a phone call. As I'm on the phone with a dispatcher, I'm explaining to them what was happening. The lady on the other end says, "Stop following him. You don't know if he might have a weapon. Get somewhere safe and wait for the police." "Lady, I'm sorry, but I had some really important pictures from like a year ago on there. They were pictures of my late best friend and I wasn't about to lose them." You can imagine how angry I was as he now started heading into the park. This was now my chance. Either he had no idea people were there, or he was just plain dumb. Up ahead of me, I can see the dad from earlier, and I called out to him, "Stop him, he took my iPod from me." Hero Dad jumps into action with another buddy of his, and they tackle this guy down like a football player. They then keep him there until officers arrive and take him away, which gave me a sense of relief. But not for long, as I learned that he was actually carrying a knife with him, which it's crazy to think he didn't try using. Thankfully, I did get my iPod back, and I've since backed up the pictures on my laptop. I will always be thankful for the dad who helped me out that night, and I'm actually still friends with his kids today. They look up to me like I'm their older sibling, which I gotta admit is pretty adorable. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to today's video. If this is the first time you listen to one of these podcasts, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified of any and all future uploads here on the Creepy Fox. Also, consider picking up some Creepy Fox merchandise, which you can find right below the video player. I've got some awesome designs right here for the summertime that you'll enjoy, so check them out and see what you think. Also, if you'd like to gain early access to brand new videos as well as some exclusive videos, check out the channel memberships option on my page. Which, speaking of channel members, let's go ahead and give my amazing channel members a quick shout out. Thank you to Robbie, Bo, Spunky the Nutcase, Rice and Beans, Scott, Sean, Corey, Linz, and Maribel. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you as well to all the regular viewers who watch my videos, leave likes, comments, and tell your family and friends about my channel, so that way they can subscribe and enjoy what we have on offer here on the Creepy Fox. Anyway, that's going to go ahead and do it for today. I'll talk to you all next time. Take care, and have yourself an amazing day.